net notes receivable transactions. Complete the table to calculate the interest amounts. Oh, okay. Interesting. Let's see what this does. Okay. Here we go. I'm just going to assume I know what the question is going to be. So you accepted the, so on the principal, we'll just call this P, principal of $24,000. You have a 45 duration, this is a days, 45 days. Interest rate, which is I, is 2%. Okay, so the question is, prepare an adjusting entry to record the accrued interest on the Lee note. So this is a start and end. Okay, so if it is a 12/13 start and it ends on 12, well, it doesn't end on 12/31. There's only a number of days. Total, this is total, excuse me. This is total days. And this is current year days. Okay. So I'm going to take the last day minus the other day. That gives me effectively 18 days in the current period. So that would mean remaining days is the total minus the 18. Okay, so using this, I can then figure out the amount of total interest. Okay, so total interest, let's go down here. Total interest is going to be the total amount times the interest percent divided by, now this is going to be the trick. Is it 360 or 365? I'm going to use 365 times then the number of days. So that's how much interest theoretically, if I put this in, if I round it, is what the total amount is. Now, if I do that same calculation for the actual number of days, current year interest, I'm going to take the total amount times the percentage rate divided by 365 times the number of days. Now, the only question here is that do you include the start date, or do you just take the difference between the two dates? There's a big difference because this could be 19 or 18. So I'm gonna assume that they need to include the actual date. Okay. So it's actually, I'm going to change this calculation just a little bit and I'll come back to it. Okay. So this, instead of just current year days, it's not going to be just 18 because that would just be the raw math between dates. You have to, in order to include the date you start with, you have to add a 1 to the numbers. Okay, so it should be 19 days worth of interest, and it should be $24.99 or 25-ish, somewhere in there. Okay, so that entry for the current year then would be date, account, debit, credit. And it's going to be 12/31, and it's going to be accrued interest, and you're going to have interest income as a credit. Okay, and that's going to be $24.99 and $24.99. Now let's see if any of these assumptions I got right, whether it's the 365 assumption or the +1 assumption. We'll find out pretty easy. Nope. See, they use 360. So only using 360, we would have to change this to 360, and we'll change this to 360. Okay, so now we should be pretty close. Okay, so we got the first one right. If we use 360, that's $60. Now the second one, time is not, so they did not include the day of. They only included the day, the difference between the dates. So that's 18. So that gives you $24, which is the same there. Okay, so now we just change this over here, $24, $24. Now, I hope you like the way I do this because it helps resolve some of the questions. Is it 365 or 30 or 360? Do you include the day or not? You saw me make the mistake on both of them of what not to do. So now you know what to do and how to prepare this. Journal entry then should be pretty straightforward. Oh, I didn't show the payoff. No, I didn't show the original receivable. That was my bad. I didn't know I had to do that one. So accounts interest receivable. Okay, accrued interest, interest receivable. You call them basically the same thing. Interest receivable and interest income or interest revenue. Most people don't call this revenue, but because they did, you do. As long as it shows some form of interest. And do they have interest income in here? No, they just have interest receivable. So it'd be obvious, excuse me, interest revenue. If they had income in here, then you would choose that one, but they showed interest revenue. Because usually interest is shown at the bottom line and at the top. Revenue is associated usually with the top line of an income statement, not at the bottom. But so be it. Okay, so that's and this one's pretty simple. When you set up the receivable, you're gonna credit the accounts receivable and move it into a note receivable. Both of them are asset accounts, but one denotes something different than the other. Okay, this being an invoice, this being a note, the note being 45 days at 2%. Okay, let's see, last